If you clicked on this video, the title spoke to you. Have you ever cried during work? Maybe you haven't. Maybe you wanted to cry and you just held back. Maybe you're just not happy with work and that sentence, that title resonated with you, so it made you want to click. I want to share with you something that happened to me last week. A good friend of mine texts me during the middle of the workday, and they text me, I'm crying. And I felt instantly really bad. And I'm like, what's wrong? Why is this person crying in the middle of the day, in the middle of work? And they told me how they're really, really not happy with their job. They're not in a good place at work. They're suffering. They're really not doing well at work. They don't like the environment. They're not happy with the situation. And then, as we spoke a little bit more, they kept asking me this one question. Why is this happening to me? Why am I in this situation? Why did God do this to me? Why am I here? And as the conversation went on, just that question, it didn't register to me. Why are you in this situation? Why am I here? Why is this happening to me? Something didn't click. Something didn't register with that question to me. And I told my friend, I'm like, I think your question is coming from a place of stuckness. You're stuck. You feel stuck. You feel you're in this situation and you're here and this is what it is and it's not going to change. And therefore you're asking, why has it happened to me? Why am I here? Why did God do this to me? And I said to my friend, I'm like, what would happen if you changed the question not to why am I here, but how can I make this better? How can I make my day better? How can I make my experience at work better? What can I do to make work more enjoyable? The situation, the atmosphere, the environment with the other workers, whatever you may be going through. Why is your question, why am I here, instead of how can I make it better? Because at the end of the day, they are working there right now. They're not going anywhere currently. And I just told them, it feels like you're stuck. It feels like you think this is what it is and it can never change and I have to deal with it and I have to acknowledge it. And therefore, I don't understand why it's happening to me. And it reminded me of something really profound that I read in a book about the significance of the questions we ask ourselves. Now, this is something so life-changing because a lot of times we don't even realize the questions we're asking ourselves. It could be we ask it out loud. It could be it's just registering in our mind. But the questions we ask ourselves are going to dictate and create the answers we give to those questions. And if the question is wrong, the answer is going to be wrong and it's not going to serve us. And if we change our questions, we could actually change our life, because now we're going to be working towards solving the right question and we'll come up with the right answer, which will positively impact our life. And I read this in a book. I think the book is called Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And the example that they gave in the book was very interesting. They said that back in the day, there were nomads that traveled the earth in search of water. And they always had one question: how do we get to water? And therefore their brain came up with answers to that question. And the answers were, how do we get to water? We have to travel. We have to go from place to place to place, never settle down, because then we can't get to water. And that's the way we get to water. So that question birthed an answer which actually ruined their lives because they weren't able to settle down. They were nomads traveling. And what kind of life is that, right? The switch occurred when they changed their question. They changed the question from how do we get to water to how do we get water to us? All they did was shift the question. And now their brain is triggered to think of an answer to that question. How do we get water to us? And what that means is, how do we stay stationary? How do we settle down and get a way to find the water to come to us? And when they changed their question, all of a sudden now they changed their answer, their thinking process. And it created an answer with which changed their life, because now they're able to get the water to them and they could stay stationary and settle down and have a normal life. And the idea is that sometimes we just ask the wrong questions in life, and then we get the wrong answers which don't serve us. They actually harm us. So it's important to keep in the forefront of your knowledge, of your consciousness, what questions am I asking? And are those the right questions? Are those the questions that are going to produce the good answers that will actually help me in life? And a lot of times at work, right? People say, most people, 80% of people don't like the jobs they're in. You'll hear statistics about, the most heart attacks happen on a Monday because people are back in work and they're so upset and they're so sad. And it just makes you think that sometimes, currently that's where we are. And it may be horrible, it may be annoying, and it may be really, really painful to be in this job. But sometimes we feel so stuck that we start asking, why am I here? Why is this happening to me? And that the answers that question is going to produce, it's not going to serve you. The better question is, how do I make my current situation better? What can I do to make it more enjoyable? What could I do to make the experience more positive? Maybe I could change my mindset. Maybe I could change my perspective, the lens in which I look at life and I look at work. Maybe I could focus on myself and just trying to be, coming to work with a better mood, and that will trigger other people to be happy and nicer to me. Maybe I could focus on a different way of looking at my workday, and just that shift in perspective can actually shift the entire day. It can shift the entire experience. There's a beautiful quote that I love from Wayne Dyer. He says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at begin to change. So a lot of times what really has to change is not necessarily the physical reality of your life, but it's the perception. It's the way in which you look at life. That's more sometimes important than the actual physical reality of what you're going through. So if you're crying, I'm not telling you to stay in your job. I'm not telling you not to look for something better. But while you're still there, at the moments you have to be there, because that's the reality right now. You didn't quit. You didn't find something else. You're going to work tomorrow. You are at work today. If you ask yourself, why am I here? Don't expect to get an answer which will actually make your experience better. Be attuned to the questions you ask yourself. How can I make it better? What could I do to change the way I view things so now I'll experience it more positively? And it's not just for work, it's for everything in life. Pay attention to the questions you ask, because those questions are creating answers that either make you miserable or potentially can make you very happy. That's today's lesson that I wanted to share with you. If you enjoyed that, if you made it till here, I'm going to be putting out a lot more videos about personal lessons, things that I'm thinking about. And I think it would be great if you subscribe, you like the video, so we can grow together. That's really the point. The point is, how do we grow? How do we elevate together? And how do we get to the next level of life?